Excuse me, sirs. Can you direct us to the local science fiction convention that we are currently dressed for?
Alright, I'm on the home stretch. The worst is behind me. So what's next? Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Wait, didn't I already review this?
What? I can't make a joke in the middle of the craziest thing ever? That's how I cope.
Oh, my mistake. This show has absolutely nothing to do with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves here. Let's see if I can describe this one. I'm gonna tell you a story, and it's vaguely true, about buck-kicking turtles who know kung fu. April is their nerdy human guy. The others try and save the day from an army of mutants and other cliches. Actually, you know what? I'm being a little bit unfair here. Kung Fu Dino Posse knows more about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles than the show called Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I said that the 2012 version was a really good entry point to the series, because before this marathon I hadn't really been acquainted with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Now that I have, I can tell you that this series was either made for people who haven't seen the original, don't like anything about the original, or it's been made by people who either haven't seen the original or don't like it. Even if I had never seen anything else Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles related, I probably would not like this show. Because this show reminds me of a lot of bad reboots. Most notably, Teen Titans Go, which the show is compared to a lot. And it makes it very haunting to me to how influential Teen Titans Go was. Take a show that has a mixture of very serious moments and comedy, and then you just pretend that the series was never serious, and couldn't possibly be serious no matter what. It'd be ridiculous if this concept tried to take itself seriously ever. I mean, how seriously could you really take Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? Oh, I don't know, about as seriously as you could take a man dressing up as a bat and fighting a clown. You wanna know one of the biggest reasons that people have been so hostile towards shows like Teen Titans Go and Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? It's because this is not what superhero shows are anymore. They haven't been this way for over a decade now. Throughout most of the 20th century and even up to the early 2000s, superheroes were usually campy and corny. There were some exceptions like Batman the Animated Series, but those were, generally speaking, exceptions. Superheroes would fight ridiculous bad guys and shout one-liners. The whole appeal was their powers or their personalities, or in the worst case scenarios, their outfits. You weren't really supposed to think deeply about their implications or the kind of world that they found themselves in. Like I said, with some exceptions. Then something changed along the way. We had series like Teen Titans or Justice League, which took themselves more seriously and treated these superheroes more as characters, rather than ambiguous forces of good or something like that. This would come to its apex with Nolan's The Dark Knight, which permanently changed the genre of what a superhero is. Nowadays, shows like Teen Titans Go and Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles don't just look corny, but they look like an active regression. It's like a AAA video game coming out today with Atari graphics. They're the equivalent of a 30-year-old who doesn't want to get a job because he's too obsessed with the stuff that he used to do as a kid, and still sleeps in Star Wars pajamas. It's embarrassing. It's been said that a lot of people would have a problem if the 80s cartoon came out after the 90s one or the 2000 one, being seen as corny or cheesy. And yeah, they would. Rightfully so. People would also have a problem if the next generation of MLP was more like G3, or hell, even G1. And they probably should. Alright, let's get back on topic here. I do not think that this is a good interpretation of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles franchise. Now, I did say that the 2012 version did change up some things from the source material, and I am okay with the principle of changing things for an interpretation, as long as you do it respectfully and with purpose. Some things don't age as well as others, and the context of certain aspects of a piece of media can change over time. The problem is when you make changes haphazardly, or for no reason at all. Not all of the changes in this series are bad per se, and many of them may be based on my personal preference. One of the changes that I'm not so keen on is the weapons that the Turtles use traditionally have been changed up in the series for far more futuristic devices. You know, like a yo-yo. I do think that making the series seem like it's more futuristic is probably on the right track, although it does give me a Lunatics Unleashed feel, which is not a good thing, but it's something that I could see working within the Ninja Turtles franchise. Changing up their weapons, on the other hand, no, I think that's an outright disrespectful change. The weapons that the Turtles use are iconic, and not to mention, they're ninjas. I kind of think that ninjas should use weapons that are considered traditionally for ninjas. Take a look at an equivalent, Samurai Jack. He's flung far into the future, and he has plenty of opportunities to use all manner of futuristic weaponry, like guns and rockets. Sometimes he will use them, but it's usually when there's no better option. Most of the time, his preference is in his sword, regardless of the magic within it. And this only changes up when he's broken and he loses his sword. I said that in most versions of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the 2012 version included, I had a bit of difficulty figuring out who was who based on visuals alone. Different colored masks and weapons wasn't enough of a distinction. Rise does fix this, but I think it goes a bit too far into the opposite direction. These redesigns, they probably would have been great if this was the first incarnation of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles ever, but after 30 years, a change like this is jarring. It's just too much too fast. Like, I would be okay if we got here eventually, but it feels like there was a few steps missing along the way. Not only that, but the personalities are heavily flanderized. At least compared to the 2012 version. Unfortunately, they're not the only characters that have changed, and they're not the characters that have changed in the worst way. What the fuck did you do to Splinter? In every other version, he's this wise mentor. In this version, he's every fucking dumbass dad, every bumbling mentor old drunk that you've seen a million goddamn times. If you want to change it, whatever, I can understand that. Why would you want to change something relatively unique into something so goddamn cliche? It's the exact same problem I have with the professor from the Powerpuff Girls 2016 reboot. Change, whatever. Why do you want to change something into something that's been done so many times before? Something that has been overdone since the original came out. But no, we need to model our show after every terrible cartoon reboot. And then we have April O'Neil, who they gave a race swap in this show because this show is progressive like that. Even though they gave her an incredibly stereotypical way of talking. Like to the point where some people could probably find it offensive. And they also gave her the personality of Scrappy-Doo. We've gone from somebody who was relatively intelligent and who at least was able to help the Turtles with their plans, to someone who rushes in stupidly and fights mutant combatants while bragging about it, and then getting punted by them, because this show is progressive like that. Going deep into this kind of progressivism is a video in and of itself. Let's just say that this one is April O'Neil in name only. She is nothing like any other interpretation, and not in a good way either. In the first incarnation, she was an assistant scientist. Then they made her a news reporter. Then they made her a teenage girl. And now she just tags along with the Turtles for no established reason. Read the comics or watch a better show, I guess, if you want the answer. Then again, considering April is different in each incarnation, I guess the only requirement to be April O'Neil is to wear yellow. Look everyone, it's April O'Neil! And hell, even by that criteria, it shows that she's a half-assed April O'Neil, cause she's only wearing half yellow. But let's put all the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle stuff aside. How does this show fare on its own? How is it if you've never heard of the franchise before? It doesn't. The animation is really, really bad. It tries to do comic book stylization like the 2012 version, but because they do it poorly, it looks really stilted. They often loop frames of animation, and sometimes it looks like there's frames missing. It's a poor effort masked as stylization. But no, the real crime here is the writing. In the first episode, when Leonardo says they need something, and Splinter thinks it's a joke, he says, "I thought purple was the funny one." You know, like he didn't adopt them and name them all after his favorite Renaissance artists. I thought purple was the funny one. He calls someone who he sees as his son by the color of his mask. This show can bite me. I'm not the biggest fan of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but it's shows and reboots like this that make me glad that I'm not. Because even though I'm not, I feel the disgrace this show is to the franchise. And yeah, I hear that it gets better. But with how the beginning is, there's no reason to stick around. Korra got better too, but I didn't like that show as a whole. And it never really made what the first season gave us worth it. And considering that that's the Avatar franchise, you got a fat chance in hell. Especially since the writing in season 1 is constantly like this. And now I'm just gonna give you a My Neighbor Totoro reference. What does it mean? Nothing! It's in this review for as much reason as it was in the show. It's just there for 2 seconds for no reason, because that's comedy. So I guess we can add double rainboom to the things that this show reminds me of, and that's not for the show's benefits. Alright, hard part's over, one more to go, let's do this. What's the last show?
I'm in a big city with my big familia. Every day here is my favorite day. Food and laughter y mucho amor.
Oh yeah, that reboot based on the character from the Loud House that I Okay, let's